Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Page Chewing. I have an incredible guest, as you can see tonight. I know a lot of you were waiting with anticipation for this one. But first, I'm just going to quickly give a shout out to my partner, Taylor from Made Between the Pages. She couldn't join us tonight. She sends her sincere apologies. So shout out to Taylor. Hope you and your family are doing okay. So I'm gonna have to carry on without my partner in crime. However, again, that does not detract from how phenomenal this guest is. Ladies and gentlemen, we have beside me none other than Mr. Lisa Nagib of BookTube himself, Mr. Mike from Mike Books Reviews. Give it for Mike. How you doing today, sir?
Well, each day is just better than the last, and I hope next time we can have a full cast here, and I can annoy both of you at the same time. Great.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much. We're so honored, and on behalf of Taylor, so honored that you can join us. I know you're a busy man. On top of that, sadly, your area has been hit with quite a few weather events
Wow,
recently,
right?
like madness, right? So
I mean, I want to let some of you guys have some of this bad weather. It's cool. It's
we
great.
got we got a little taste. I'm with in Canada, so we just get a little bit of blowback, but not much. Just some rain. Nothing compared to what you've undergone. So
But
kudos to
hey,
you.
it's not 10 degrees with 4 feet of snow here, so I'll accept that every time.
Hey, it's like plus. Well, I guess it would be. It's just 30 degrees Celsius at least. Like it's warm here, man. Where I'm just north of Toronto, it's warm. We get similar weather to New York, so we're enjoying a nice summer here. A little bit more rain than usual, but thankfully no weather events. But yeah, just glad you and your family and
Yeah,
everyone's okay down there in the Houston area. So
I appreciate that. Yeah, there's still a lot of people without power, but it's getting there slowly but surely. We're getting there.
well, I know you're a trooper. You broadcast through all kinds of weather, and all kinds of events. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I have been looking forward to this for so long. Mike, you are frankly, everybody who watches YouTube or subscribes to different YouTube channels, everybody's got their own playlist, their own individual specialized list of people that they watch. And I know for me and a lot of my people that I associate with, you're one of I know you're a humble guy, but dude, you're one of the biggest people in this corner of space, man. You're kind of a big deal. So I know you're a humble guy, but that is something that is for myself, a lot of people, that's a reality. So congratulations on all the success that you've been experiencing. And how are you feeling about all that? Your channel's grown exponentially over the years. I hope to get into a bit of your origin story. I know you probably told a lot of this stuff a few times, so if you'll indulge. But yeah, like how are you feeling, man? With how well
Well,
things are going?
you're far too kind. Thank you very much. I mean, what I've said is like, am I bigger than some of those channels just getting started? Sure, but am I like one of the bigger ones? I don't think so. But I also just think that I don't feel like I'm any different than I was when I had 10 subscribers to now. In the end, it's just a number, and I'm just proud of the community we built here because I wanted to make a positive space. I know YouTube is really got a lot of negativity on it. And I just said I want to get a positive space, something where we've gotten to this as a people. We've gotten to where it's like agree with my opinion or die. And I was like, I want to make a place where it was okay for people to disagree, talk about it, and still feel like they can go get a cup of coffee afterwards. And I feel like I've done that. But yeah, it's been an experience. And again, to me, if I can help any others kind of achieve greatness from what I can offer, I mean, I would happily do that. So all I can do is tell you guys, this is what's worked for me. If it might not work for everybody, but I'm going to keep trying.
Well, obviously, you keep trying and you keep thriving. And I do want to delve into this later on as well. But you also have, besides your BookTube channel, I've been creeping your media channel. I've been creeping there because I'm a big A Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones Hot D fan. You can see
Yeah.
all the GRM books up behind my own there. And so I've been silently checking out the great content you're putting on there. So good stuff, reviews of Hot D, etc. Can you tell us a bit about your media channel? Because some people may not be aware that you have that going on. Most people know you for the BookTube stuff, but can you tell us a bit about your media channel?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where I used to once in a while I do this thing I called off the books, where I talked about something that wasn't book related, and it really it's one of those things like in marketing in business school they teach you, stay on brand, always stay on brand, and I felt like, there's a lot of people who probably didn't come here for this, but I want to be able to talk about it because I like more stuff than just books. So I thought I'd make a second channel, but it's really hard to maintain one channel, much less two. And it got to the point where I was like 6-7 months without doing anything over there. And my wife just kind of put me to task and said, look, you asked me to come on the camera with you for some of these things, and then you just kind of bailed. So she's really pushed me to get back into it. We've been more consistent with it. But it's a lot of fun because that's just the stuff that me and my wife talk about, whatever we watch. We do that normally no matter what. So hey, cool, I can turn the camera on while we do that after everything we watch, and people seem to like it. And I came up in a podcasting background, so it's really easy for me to just get to a conversation. Obviously, we do these things all the time without any notes or any plan really. So conversations never a problem, but being able to share with my wife's been a lot of fun because, to think about like 5 years ago, she could have never thought about putting her face on the camera and sharing it with the world, so it's been a lot of fun in that regard. But yeah, it's just a place for me to talk about anything that's not book related, and doesn't necessarily have to be just about, TVs or movies or whatever. Like some people want to see like my DVD or my sneaker collection or something, I can do that. I have an outlet for that, without having to worry about the algorithm or how long a video is or things like that. It's just a nice fallback for if I want to talk about something that's not, book related.
Yeah, and it's also awesome to see you and your wife. For me, I love that dynamic. I always love seeing creatives with their partners or their spouses coming on and getting involved. I think this is a really cool thing. I know for me, my lovely wife Deb, hey honey, if you're watching, love you. She's like my business manager for the entrepreneurial stuff, and I just get a real kick out of seeing that. So it's great to watch that aspect of your channel as well. So
thank you, appreciate it.
Just going to put up a couple quick comments. People joining. We got the wonderful Brian Bell, a great host and a pretty good guest too. Pretty good.
I'd like it more if I was like dressed like a mermaid or something, like Brian does.
Yeah, Brian Bell. For those of you who aren't aware, BellTube is it's couple months blowing up pretty good. But Brian hasn't been on that long, but he's getting pretty popular. So check out his channel. He's a wonderful human being.
Good guy too, no doubt.
Yeah, just such positive energy, such enthusiasm. He just brings it every time. So love Brian. Thanks for stopping by, my friend. Always great to see you there. And welcome, Sarah Beth. Hello from sunny Arizona. How's it going, Sarah Beth? Yep, home of the Diamondbacks. They're not doing too bad these days. So good for you in Arizona. And Jared, the fantasy thinker himself, another great booktuber and wonderful human. Hey, Jared, thanks for stopping by, saying cheers. Welcome to you. And we also have the awesome Timothy Wolf, a great supporter of the channel, fantastic author. Check out his books. Says there's nothing more harmonious than a YouTube comment section.
That's it. Actually, when I started, because I told you I talked about, I had a podcast before this. I did sports first, and then I did just movies, music, games, all that kind of stuff. And those comment sections, you think that we get back? Man, you don't even know what comments are like in a sports stream or something to do with like talking about movies. I mean, it's just like holy crap. So when I started doing BookTube, I told my wife, I was like, I'm like blown away. It's like 99% of my comments are positive. And she said, well, it's because stupid people don't read. it is a much different animal when you're dealing with books. You still get the crazy stuff. But I think now it's more like it makes you do a double take when you see it, because you're like, really, you're this upset because of my opinion on a book? Interesting, but yeah, dealing with some of those other genres. And I think that it can get really quite non-harmonious, let's put it that way.
Oh yeah, I mean, people are passionate about what they're passionate about. I'm a huge sports fan. I'm a Toronto homer. All my teams, Raptors. Maple Leafs. Blue Jays. People get passionate about sports. People get passionate, obviously, in terms of movie and book fandoms. I mean, that better than most, Mike. That you start. Any criticism sometimes regarding particular fandoms, they tend to get a bit irate.
spent thousands on Brandon Sanderson books, but apparently I'm a hater because I don't think every book is a 10 out of 10. So yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, actually, on that topic, yeah, I saw your recent video that you put up, which is basically dispelling what you felt were some rumors and half truths and myths about
I noticed lately I've been getting a lot of people that were like, "Hey, I always see
what
your
inspired you.
channel pop up in my algorithm, but I'd heard this or I'd assumed that, and I watched your content and like none of that stuff was true." So I just kind of like, I have the loyal viewers that have been there for years, but I was like, I do get a lot of new people, so I just want to make sure that I kind of just these are things that are said, and I just want to make you think maybe, hey, maybe there is some truth to some of them, and some of them are complete buck. Because basically, it's my side of it. It was never meant to be like oh, look at me, the poor victim. I don't do that. I can take criticism, and and I only worry about the things I can control, so I don't worry about that. But I feel like if you're gonna believe something about someone, at least hear what they have to say about it first. So that's just me. I've always tried to be transparent, honest with my audience. And there's a lot of topics in it that usually I wouldn't touch, so I just wanted to kind of address them. Because I don't know how it is up there in the Great White North, but in America, about every 2 years, things get super, super politicized, and everyone starts getting really, really angry. So it just brought a lot of things to the forefront. I was like, okay, I'm just going to address this now, and then I'm going to do like I usually do and don't touch it again. So felt like
Well, I think that's one of the things that a lot of people really respect about you. That you're candid, you're really supportive, and you're really positive, and you're honest and you're candid. And when you don't like a book or you don't like a movie or you don't like something, you're not shy on tactfully saying that, right? And I think that garners respect and admiration more than anything else. However, we all know, as you said, this space sometimes there's people that don't appreciate things that people say, and you move on to that. But I also think, Mike, frankly, and I know again you're humble, that's the byproduct of the fact that when you get to be someone like you, who a lot of people they listen to you, I guess it's that point where maybe I'm not sure when you felt it, when you realize, my word can influence people's opinion about certain things, and it's kind of part of the territory that there will also be people who, are not so positive, specifically because you've achieved some modicum of success and that you do influence people's opinions potentially. So is that something that you've kind of grown used to? Is that something that, that you ever grow used to?
Yeah, I was talking to Ryan recently, Ryan Cahill, about this, and he's just talking about basically things that we both kind of say that you don't like say out loud everywhere. Is just like, there's always going to be people that you've never even engaged with that hate you for something. And he's talked about, you have no idea how there's like some other people that are like, just hate me because I've had success in self-publishing. And I'm like, I have people that I've never interacted with at all and who refuse to be, around me. And I'm just like, and I don't know what I did, but I was like, again, I worry about the things I can control. So yeah, when you have some modicum of success, I feel like that'll happen. I don't necessarily know if it's, they're just being jealous or something like that, or what. Again, just like what I said, it was just what they heard about you or presumed about you. Like I have an open door policy. You want to talk to me about it? Hey, cool, let's do it. But I'm not the type to just gonna be like, oh, please talk to me. I'm not that type. I mean, I got lots of people that want to talk to me. As far as like people like listening to what I say, I still tell everybody, don't take my word for it. Please read it and make up your own mind when I'm negative on something, which is very rare, honestly. But I do feel like that's something that's important. I tell people all the time, please don't just take my word for it and say, well, I'm not going to read that now because you didn't like it. Because there's been lots of books that I'm clearly wrong on the wrong side on, because a lot of people love it. And I'm just like Name of the Wind much. And it's just like, hey, it's just, I admit maybe it's just like a me thing. So I always say, read it for yourself and find out. I've seen other booktubers are flat out, avoid this at all costs. I'm not that guy. I'm never going to be that guy, but I'll tell you what I thought about it.
And again, I think that's something that we really appreciate and respect for you for. Just a quick popping up and shout out to Shad, great support of the channel and always stops by. Had the privilege of meeting Shad in person at a con a while back. So Shad, how's it going, buddy? Thanks a lot for stopping by and saying hello. So Mike,
con thing more honestly.
Yeah, have you been to a lot? Have you been to
No, I was going to go to Dragon Con, but I was telling some people that wanted me to come, some authors that wanted me to come. I was like, look, I've reached a point in life where I don't do lines anymore. I was like, if they want to credential me, sure, I'll come down, but they didn't need me. You know, they don't care about my opinion at Dragon Con. They're big enough. They don't need me to get people to come there. But maybe some of these smaller ones, like I am going to see Ryan and Christopher Rocchio in Dallas here
Oh,
in
awesome.
a couple of months. That's about it. And it's same thing with Dragon Steel. It was kind of the same thing with that. Was like they want to credential me. I might try to find a way to get there, but it's not a I think that I'm too good kind of thing. It's just that I'm old, guys, and I just don't want to sit in a line forever for maybe a chance to get in and see something. That's just not me. I'm past the Comic-Con age, you know. I just can't do that anymore. That's why I do everything online. I don't want to go stand in line, you know. That's what it is for me. I don't do any Black Friday shopping. I do everything from my computer, you know. So
No, I hear you. The Comic Con thing for me, of course, is mainly getting out there and networking and hopefully selling some books. I'm going down to Deb and I have never been across the pond, but we're going the first time across the pond next month to Worldcon, and that should be a big trip. But at the same time, honestly, Mike, that one of the biggest reasons we're going is because forming all these relationships with people online that you feel so close to, and I'm going to get a chance to meet some of them, over like Taylor, my page chewing, cohort. She lives in Japan, right? And she's going. A lot of my buddies from the traditional and self-publishing world are going down there. Stephen Arians going down there. I mentioned Crystal, a lot of people that I've formed these relationships with, they're going to this big convention, and it's going to be kind of like a nice meetup. I mean, yeah, I know there's a lot of other big stuff going on, but for me, it's also an opportunity to meet them face to face.
No doubt. I mean, I have people I've been talking to since 2020 that I feel like we're real friends and we've never actually met. And I always assumed, because when this first took off for me was during lockdown, and there wasn't really ever a chance for us to travel. I always thought eventually we'd have some kind of just, booktube like convention meetup kind of thing. And it's just who's going to organize something like that, But I want to say it happened eventually because I guess I feel like I know a lot of these people that we never actually met in real life. But I just think that's the way that technology is now. I think when I was younger, the idea of doing something like we're doing right now, for free, video calling was like a pipe dream when I was a kid. Now we're doing it for free when we think of it. So I think that's just like a new way to actually maintain friendships and stuff without actually living next to each other. You can always see and talk to each other. It makes those lines of communication so much easier.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think it's that much more fulfilling. And I've seen this happen. I've seen this happen with other friends of mine in the community when you have those relationships and when you finally meet, it's this really emotional, like, wow, this is person I've known for so long. And then you finally get to meet them. And then, this takes the friendship to another level. So I'm hoping to experience a bit of that when I head out there. So, but yeah, so in just another quick comment here from Brian. Mike makes great videos, but for me, he's the best at recommending books on YouTube. Real value in that. Yep.
I've made Brian buy a lot of books, I've been told. I love spending other people's money. It's great.
I don't doubt it for a second. So yeah, so you were mentioning a bit, Mike, about your origin stories and the fact that you, like a lot of booktubers, you launched during the pandemic. So can you tell a bit about the impetus behind everything that you do in this space and how it started and how this emerged into this thing?
It was such a happy accident, really. I didn't know BookTube was a thing, really. I had no idea that people went on YouTube and talked about books, really. At the time with YouTube, I really just used it for like movie trailers, and I'd watch Angry Video Game Nerd. I watched his videos still. So I was like, I really didn't know about it as an outlet for anything. I knew that not Twitch gaming, but yeah, just gaming was big. That's before most of them moved over to Twitch. I knew that was kind of a thing. But I didn't know that there was like things like this, really. And I was always doing my podcasting with my co-host. And then Google Hangouts was dying. And they were taking that away. I was like, well, I need to find a place to actually do a live call between us that doesn't cost money. And YouTube Live was a thing. So basically, I just put it on there to use it before I hosted it and put it on, the server to put on the podcast for iTunes. So that was just something that I did. And obviously, I never even really used the YouTube as a thing. No one wants to watch me and my friend talk about comic books for 2 hours. At least I didn't think. You know, they wanted to, they'd listen to it, but there wasn't something they wanted to watch. And then I started, he wasn't really much of a book reader outside of comics. And so I just said, well, I've been really thinking about reading The Wheel of Time. I'm really thinking about it. And so what I started doing is I knew that there was I was actually expected to take a lot longer to read through the series than I did. For originally, it was just going to be, I wanted to read like a couple books before the show started. That was actually what got me to do it, because I wanted to stay ahead of the show. So I said I was going to read like 2 books, and I started recording like video diaries, I guess you say. So I'd remember what happened in case I took long breaks between books. And I was just keeping them on my computer. And I thought, oh, what if my computer crashed or something? I know I'll just upload them to the YouTube page, you know, and just to keep them there, just have them as a backup, basically. And about, I don't know, 2-3 days later, I'm like, why do these have like 500 views? No one ever watches this stuff. And I started reading the comments. I'm like, wow, okay, people are commenting on videos and stuff, because I still had my notifications on Gmail, and it was popping up, lovely comment on your YouTube video. I'm like, what? No one does this. Everybody does everything on iTunes or Twitter. And I started going to the comments, like, hey, this is really great. If you really like this, you should check out this person's channel and this booktuber. I'm like, what is a booktuber? And so I looked a couple of up, and I was like, oh my God, these are my people. I have no idea that there was people that talk about books, not just books, the books that I read, which none of my real life friends did. So I said, okay, well, these are doing very well. Let me see if it's just Wheel of Time or if it's me. So I started talking about The First Law by Joe Abercrombie, and those did really well too. And then it just opened the floodgates of all these recommendations and stuff I got. So I just started doing like everything, and slowly but surely it started to take off. And that was right when the virus that shall not be named happened. That was when I went from, oh, I'm gaining like 25, 30 subscribers a week to, holy crap, I gained 500 subscribers last week. And it just really just started taking off. So that was the silver lining of all that for me, is it kind of took off from there. But yeah, it was a total accident. I had no idea it was a thing. And it really was great, because my podcast host was getting married, having a kid and stuff. And he was saying he didn't know how much longer he could do it. So it was perfect timing, really, in that regard. But also I was going back to school at the time. And we had to go full time to stay on the scholarship I was on. So my wife's a teacher; she went back to work, and I stayed home with the kids because I did all my classes online. And they were really young at that point. And I needed some adults to talk to. So that's kind of what it turned into. It was like, okay, well, at least they have like other adults to talk to. So it really helped me through that stretch as well. And then kind of transitioning back into the workforce and all that stuff. It's been an experience for sure, but it's definitely been something that I'm very, very proud of and very happy that I still have as an outlet to share these things. I really never thought 5 years ago that anybody gave a shit what I was reading. Really, I didn't think there was an outlet for these things, especially sci-fi fantasy, which no one I knew read. You know, I mean, maybe some people read some Stephen King, but they didn't read The Wheel of Time. You know, they didn't read First Law, things like that. So it was a very, very happy accident, and I'm quite happy with how it went.
Wow. Has it surprised you now that you're so dialed into the booktube community now? And obviously, you know, as that being a microcosm, a part of the larger YouTube community, are you surprised at how pervasive booktube is? I mean, there's booktubers there with, hundreds of thousands of followers. You know, there's people who hang on the word of certain booktubers. You know, you have your Daniel Greens, your big. I mean, the whole romance part of it's so big.
You're one of the bigger booktubers. I'm like, dude, those Sarah J. Maas people have 500,000-600,000
exactly. Yeah, it's crazy. It's great. But does that shock you? Like, when you became aware and fully cognizant of how big like everything was involving books on YouTube, did that? And then as you grew and became, you know, and again, I know this big entity in your little court, does it still surprise you that so many people look to booktube specifically? You know, now we're post-pandemic, like, you know, regarding their books and what they read.
I do. I mean, every day I have this feeling of when people say, "Hey, have you ever considered doing this full time?" Like, no, it's way too unpredictable. It's way too, and you know, I didn't go back to school to do this. Honestly, it's way too unpredictable, and I keep expecting eventually, you know, people will get bored of it, you know, and move on. And we've seen some of that with the rise of Book Talk and people not really digging long form content, which is what I do. I rarely do anything less than 20 minutes. That's just because I can ramble about anything, as you can see here. I keep expecting that to happen, but it seems like it's, peaks and valleys. You know, I feel like, okay, things are starting to go downhill. Maybe it's over. You know, maybe it's going downhill, and then boom, it'll shoot back up. You know, so It's a weird community, I guess you'd say, in that I just never thought that it would hang on to viewers as long as it does. But I think in the end is if what I go for in my channel is I want to make it sound like you're just at a coffee house or you're at the bar just talking to a friend.
Yeah.
You're just talking about what you like. I always said I wanted to talk to my audience, not at them. I wanted to feel like they were part of a conversation. And I feel like a lot of people find that relatable in a way that they feel like you're a friend and they like, hey, let's talk to my book pal and see what they're reading, and that's awesome. That's awesome. And people tell me when people tell me that they feel like that's what my channel is, it feels like a friend. That's awesome because that's what I was going for.
Well, I think that's definitely the atmosphere you've cultivated. I know that, there's that sense of work, like, oh, Mike's posts a video and, it's like you're watching, a friend of yours talk and, recommend books and say some really positive things. And I think that's part of what the atmosphere you've created. You've obviously worked hard on that, but I think it's also who you are. It's a natural thing. So, and kudos to you for doing that. I do want to say as well that, part of what I think a lot of people admire, respect about you, including myself, is that, I think you bring, and we all bring parts of ourselves to what we do in these spaces. You have a business degree. And I think you bring some of that business savvy to the way you've managed your channels and created them, and you also bring that to, I think, your analysis of all things in the space. And I see that the most, especially when you talk about things like adaptations, why certain ones have been successful or not so
Right.
successful. So does that business background, do you think that's really helped you in terms of how your channels develop, what you bring to interpretations of certain things? You think that's something that's really been positive?
Yeah, I mean, when I talk about like my channel analytics and stuff, people are like, "Oh, why do you let it bother you so much?" I'm like, "Well, I work in finance, guys. What I do, I look at trends, I follow the data. That's something that I do. It's something I can't undo. I've been doing it for 30 years. It's one of those things where it's hard to not do it. And again, that's to really help other content creators and help them see, look, you guys think my channel's so massive. I have the same concerns and question marks that you guys do. That's just the platform. It really is. But with me, it was I didn't expect a minor in marketing. I mean, I'm a finance major. I didn't expect a minor in marketing. It was one of those where you have to take some classes to get enough credits, and you've got these to choose from. And I just kept saying, well, I just guess I'll just keep doing marketing. And it taught me a ton. It actually taught me a ton of things that most people would find common sense, but the other side of it's like, oh, that makes sense. Never really think about it from that standpoint. But with me, it's like I spent so many years being a consumer. It's easy for me to say, this is probably what people want. I'm real big about listening to your audience, give them what they want. Don't be tone deaf. Don't be like, well, this is the way it's always been done. Those types. So that's why I'm always willing to embrace it. Like I tried TikTok. It turned me into my parents like immediately. It was too loud for me. I couldn't do it. But I mean, you always try new things, but the lessons that I learned from marketing, like I said, stay on brand, the way to target a specific audience. Like with me, it was like, okay, I'm going to target people that, don't want to hear about real life events. They don't want to hear about that kind of stuff. You know what I'm talking about. I'm going to target people that probably 18 to 35 range and older, most likely. It predominant. I wasn't really targeting males. That's just going to kind of happen, I think, with BookTube and fantasy, especially. It seems like it kind of leans that way sometimes, at least personally on my channel. And I was going to kind of target people who didn't have short attention spans, people that wanted to hear a conversation, really. And that was when I started saying, hey, I'm going to start doing these talk about nothing videos, these discussions, these long form discussions with people, because I did come up in podcasting. And I think there's an outlet for it. Now everybody does it, but I'm not saying that I created the conversation, but I'm just saying that, yeah, it's something that's always altering and growing and just changing. And I just kind of try to roll with it. But yeah, a lot of the things I learned in business school taught me to pay attention to a lot of these things. And that is why I follow the analytics and I listen to what the audience is saying. And people, I'll just do whatever you want. I want to do what the people want. I can talk about whatever. You guys really want to hear about this coffee mug for 20 minutes? If that's what you guys want, I can do it, because I am a real big believer of always do what your audience is asking you to do. Now, that's led me down some big mistakes sometimes. I thought a lot of people wanted that. Clearly they didn't. But again, if you don't take a risk, how can you ever get better? And with this, I'm always trying to get better.
Yeah, and I think that's another reason why you've garnered such respect in the community too, Mike. Is that it's clear that you're not there to rest on your laurels, right? You're not just there to say, "Hey, look at me, I've arrived. I got
Oh, trust it'd be nice to just do, hey, here's my top 10 fantasy books again. It must be nice to just make that video over and over again and get 300,000 views. That must be awesome. I can't do that. It's just, I have too much, I have too many ideas. I have more ideas than I have time, honestly, because my real job and my family is quite demanding as it is for everybody. But yeah, with me, I don't want to keep making the same video over and over again just because I know it gets clicks, because that's how you get stale and you get boring. So I try not to do that.
And also too, I think I like think like myself, like a lot, like most creators that I know, it's also on your integrity that you're not just looking for and you mentioned this in that video I talked about. You're not just looking for clickbait. That's a really easy, a cheap way to
Dude,
go.
I would just go out there and be like, Brandon Sanders is the best writer of all time, and he's better than Tolkien, and yeah, that would probably get me a lot more of an audience. But I just don't feel like that's my content. I just can't bullshit people. It's just I don't feel like that. I have to be genuine. It sucks. I'm not Honest Abe or something like that. I'm just saying that I'm not gonna completely, if I didn't enjoy something, tell you how great it is just because I know it'll get me a lot of attention. That's why I don't do a lot of rant videos. I think I've done one rant video the entire history of my channel, and that was just kind of off the cuff because I know that gets negativity gets a lot of attention. We know this, but yeah, there's plenty of that out there. I wanted to make counter programming to that.
Well, again, that's something I think that you're respected for. Quickly, Jared mentioned here. Yep, that convention that you're planning, that big BookTube reunion, Mike. Jared's down. Jared, maybe you can start doing the planning there.
Out there. If any booktuber is like a community organizer, man, get it rolling. I'll try to support it any way I can. Definitely.
Another wonderful supporter channel, Drew. Hey, what's up? Just hello, PL and everyone. Thanks so much, Drew, for stopping by. And Brian says, Mike is a captain, consistent, never appears on camera to be phoning in. And no, I fully agree, Brian. I watched a lot of your videos, Mike. I've never got the sense that you were just kind of, like I said, just kicking back. It's like, yeah, whatever. Maybe you feel that way. I'm not saying you're not relaxed and very, casual and nonchalant on your videos and that you're not welcoming, but it never looks like you're just coasting, right?
I have had those days where I was like, I really don't want to go up there. For me, it's one of those kind of things like when I say I don't want to go to work, it's like I don't want to get up, shower, get dressed, drive to work. But once I'm there, I'm fine. Same, I don't want to go upstairs, get all this equipment set up and all that stuff. And I don't want to edit anything. But, actually making the video, no big deal at all. I could talk about these things all day long. So if it seems like I'm not phoning it in, so to speak, that's probably true because I'm just a conversationalist by nature. But yeah, I have those days where I have to kick myself in the butt a little bit to get going. Definitely. But lots of coffee, Brian. Lots of coffee.
Yeah, I think we've all had those days, no matter what we're doing, no matter what our job is, no matter how much we love our hobbies like this, right? I know for me, like you, booktubing, of course, I'm quite amateurish at it compared to you and a lot of other people that I look up to in that sphere. Even writing is a hobby for me. It's not my full-time gig.
Writing's a hobby for you. You're putting out bricks this thick once a year, son. What do you mean a hobby? My goodness.
Yeah, it's a hobby. I got a regular, very intense full-time gig. But I aspire that when I retire, God willing, in 7 years, that writing will become the full-time gig. But it's different. Writing is a labor of love. It's not something that it doesn't feel like work, right? I'm not saying it's not hard in moments. And you've talked to plenty of writers, some pretty famous writers like internationally best-selling writers. You've spoken to Christopher Rock, as you've spoken to some and I'm sure they'll all tell you the same. No matter how big in terms of scope and sphere the writer is and audience, yeah, it can be like work, but it's a labor of love, man. It's and not that I don't love my regular job, so no disrespect to my career.
Instagram pictures of you in like literal paradise writing, and I'm like, wow, this is the life right here, man.
Well, I need that, man. You know what it is when you're in those kind of settings. It's just so easy to relax and just everything just flows. It's inspirational itself, and like I said, God willing, when I retire, Deb and I are going to be 6 months somewhere sunny with palm trees, and then 6 months here with the grandkids and all that, right? So that's a plan, anyways. So, John A. Douglas, the wonderful John A. Douglas, awesome guy. booktuber and author. Check out John's books.
Yeah, I was on his
Thanks.
channel last night. We were talking Dark Tower. Good time. John's a
Yeah, I
lot.
haven't had a chance to catch up with that one. Yeah, a little bit of
Yeah,
Stephen
John's
King.
another one that's got like the big boy job, but he also finds time to write big old brick novels. Like he showed me last night. He tried to shoot his book to see if a bullet would go through it, and it did not.
Yeah, I gotta catch up with John's book. I think Black Crown. I gotta get going on. I got, of course, TBRs are how long it takes to get to stuff. So, but John says, "Hey guys, what's going on? Slow news day." I figured I might as well hang. Thanks so much for coming by, my friend. Quickly, he just said, "Oh, your hobby is well done, as many other writers whose job it is to write PL." Well, thank you very much. I'm humbled.
You're writing Cahill style size books here, jeez.
Well, you know what? Ryan has just totally, and couldn't happen to a nicer guy.
Yeah.
He's just totally blown up,
and always willing to help others. So that's important to notice there too. He'll always take the minute to talk to other authors in the game and kind of give them advice. How many books is your series plan on being? Do you have an end? Is the next book the last one?
No, it's seven. It's a 7-booker. So I'm more than halfway. So I'm working on book 5 right now. I'll be out in 2025, early 2025. So yeah, 7-book series plan. I always knew it was gonna be a long one. The next ones I read are gonna be more like trilogies and stuff. But yeah, this one is a long one. And you know what? I think for me, and again, I know you talked to a lot of writers, Mike. I started late. I started as a gray beard. I started in my 50s, getting published. So when you cross that 50 mark, you get that feeling, you have more years behind you than ahead, nominally, the way most things work out. So I had to get started, and I didn't want to half step. I didn't want to, do anything half-assed. So
you look like a Valerian, man. You look badass. Well, yeah.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. You don't look so bad yourself, man. I think we're on the same age, and I think that our generation was built on work. Okay, we were built on work. We had our parents, that boomer generation just before us, that it's about work. You got to get out there. You got to grind, right? There's no sitting back and putting your feet back and your head back and go, no, you got to grind. So, and then, you see the uber successful indie authors like Ryan Cahill, enough respect to Ryan and everybody in the game. Obviously, Ryan has definitely succeeded, but there's so many successful indie authors and trad authors out there, but none of that happens without hard work. That's probably, beside the talent of actually be able to write a book, the hard work, man, the marketing and everything else, irrespective of how you're published, that's such a huge element now. Gone are the days for traditionally published authors, as that can just sit back, write the book and go, yep, my publishing company's got this. I just, put my head down and bang on the keyboard. No, you gotta be on social media. You gotta be plugging your book. You have to be engaged.
There's no magic bullet for this, man. It's like you have to work hard. There's really no way around that one. You got to be consistent. You got to, get up because you're going to fall down a lot. But it's just, keep working hard. And yeah, like you said, that was just kind of the Gen X thing. It was just like, you ain't going to look. I don't say that working hard is going to guarantee success, but what I tell people is you're not going to have success without working hard. So you might as well at least give it a shot.
Yeah. No, honestly, and I'm not sure if if you're going to be willing to get all deep in this now, but have you had those days where you just said screw it? As much as you love BookTube, as much as you love what you're doing as a hobby, whether it's family pressures or other commitments, work, you're getting promotion at work, your responsibilities escalating, or the kids are taking on more sports, or maybe your wife's career is taking off. Maybe
quitting. Is that what you're asking?
Have you ever thought about packing it in specifically for BookTube?
I don't think that I've ever thought about just completely quitting. I've thought of, I have actually reduced what I was doing freaking 4 videos a week for 3.5 years. Now I'm just now I'm down to 2 and a weekly update every single week. Cause I was it was too much. Cause I was moving up the ladder at the company I'm at, and it was a lot more work. And I did feel like I was starting to neglect my family a little bit. I never want to do that, especially, if you got young kids, man, you just feel like it goes by like that. And I already feel like, 12 and 9, I already feel like that. Yeah. So I have those times where I feel like, I'd like to take a month off. I have had that before. but I just have so many things to talk about. It's like no problem actually like doing them. So I've had a lot of the big people. Why I had that video a while back, which was off of Library of Vikings idea. I want to make sure I give him credit about why people were quitting YouTube and BookTube in general. And a lot of the questions I get is like, how have you stayed so consistent with this in 5 years? And it's just like, it's in that work ethic, man. It's one of those things that I know I don't have to do it, but if I set myself a task, damn it, I'm going to do it. It's just how I roll. But I mean, I've been lazy as I used to get my videos out Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Now they're like Tuesday, Friday, Sunday. You know, it just gets like that sometimes because real life does get in the way. But again, I think in my life, I've always treated everything like a job. Whereas I say I want to keep this fun, don't make it feel like a job. But I'm saying I have that work ethic in me to where I will treat something as simple as like, okay, I've got these 3 chores I got to get done on my work day. I'm going to go do them right now. So I have the rest of the day to relax. So, I mean, that's just kind of how I just treat everything. It's getting harder as I get older because it's getting harder to go up and down them stairs a lot, you know. But yeah, that comes with the territory, I think. But hopefully I can keep that same energy as things go around. Hey, Joanna.
I hear you, brother. Yeah, and get to some more comments here. So we got Johnny says, I swear when I shot my book, I was not talking that symptoms predict the future energy. Okay, we'll take your word for it, Johnny. Great guy. He's awesome. And yes, and Mike had noted, the wonderful Joanna Reeds, fantastic person and booktuber in this space. Howdy, how are you doing, Joanna? Thanks so much for dropping by. We really appreciate it. John is just marvelous, so insightful, her intellect, man. We are very fortunate in this space. I know, Mike, you're good friends with the Philip Chases the World, and
I talked to Philip, and Joanna and AP.
Joanna and AP.
Stupid to be in this conversation.
I'm not sure if you caught it. We had Taylor and I had we dubbed our Big Brain Energy episode. And we had, AP and Philip on there, and Jenny Wirtz and John Morrow.
They're describing like how to create cold fusion. So I am not smart enough to be here. Wow.
I just try to keep my mouth shut and just listen and try not to sound dumb, right? So, but again, Joanna, one of those really intellectual and very warm and funny people as well. But yeah, it's awesome to see you come by, Joanna. So
see, that's why Joanna
thank you so
recommended this Prince of Nothing book to me. I'm like,
you gotta, dude. I have it, and it, the TBR thing. It's horrible, but that first book made such an impression on me. I know that Backer's going to be one of my favorite authors of all time.
As much as I love Dune, that he has a lot of Dune kind of things.
Oh, you absolutely, Mike, you got to read it, man. You got to read it. It is.
Well, Joanna, stay tuned for August. I think you might like something I have to announce.
Oh, awesome. Okay, we'll stay tuned for that. Yeah, I got messed up by Amazon. I ordered the next 2 books in the series, and they messed up the delivery, and that's in the back, so hopefully I get it soon so I continue. But yeah, man, Baker's got something special going on. A la Erickson, he's got that really dark, messed up stuff. He's got that vibe. It's the philosophical angle. It's just fantastic. But you really got to check it out. And Joanna's backing that up, that it's so good, and she's already gone on to the second book in the series, book 5, the second Paul. So I'm jealous, Joanna, getting FOMO. So I got to catch up to you. So, and there is my wonderful co-host. Oh, Taylor, he says, so sorry I couldn't be there, but thank you for coming on, Mike. Best believe I'll be watching the replay.
Yeah, I told him, it's like, you just dodging me. That's fine. It's cool. It's cool. No, for real. I hope everything's okay. For real.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Taylor. And obviously, you're always in our thoughts and prayers. So thank you. Oh, and Joanna says, August is her birthday month. So happy birthday,
Leo.
All the Leos band together. I guess early happy birthday to you as well, Mike. I guess August is.
They get less happy as you get closer to that big 5-0, I think. Yeah.
No, man, believe me, man. Hey, man, every day above ground is a good day, my friend. When you get to a certain age, just like when you're upright and breathing, it's a good thing. Yeah, Jared says he really needs to get into Baker, and I think you will. Yeah, I think you will really enjoy our Scott Baker back. I'm not sure if pronouncing it well.
Yeah,
there's Daniel.
I've heard that a lot. That they know that I like the first trilogy. They're not sure about the second one because it gets freaking strange. And I'm like, all right.
Yeah, so I heard like all kinds of alien sex monsters and crap, but whatever. I'm there for it. I'm there for it. So, Daniel says, thanks for coming by, Daniel. From the channel, awesome. You'll definitely like Prince Nothing. Mike Aspinall might get a little too out there for you. Not sure. So I guess Daniel has read all about the alien sex monsters. So he's but yeah, and it's funny, Mike, because over the years watching you, we're roughly around the same generation. We like a lot of the same books and authors. You obviously Stephen King is one of your faves, kind of something you grew up on. A lot of we seem to like a lot of the same books, the Joe Abercrombies, the Bernard Cornwells, a lot of the same stuff. Is it harder for you? I mean, now that as we get older, we get somewhat more set in our ways. Not that we can't adapt and grow, and right. But I think we all, admittedly, we all get a bit more entrenched in certain things. Is it harder for you now to read outside your comfort zone as you get older, to try things that you go, I'm not really sure that's my bag. I don't know if I want to take a chance on that. Maybe I'll just pass and stick with this because this sounds more like my, or are you just in that, are you willing to just be more experimental with certain things? You know what? I'm going to give that a shot because
I've started doing this thing now where instead of just reading just fantasy, I'm trying to read more things. And I have one book a month I call miscellaneous, which can be like anything, crime, thriller, just something out of my comfort zone that's not just fantasy, horror, sci-fi. And I tried to do that last year and I had like a hiccup. Everybody was telling me to try Frederick Backman, and it was a Man Called Ove, and I was like, this isn't for me. This isn't my style of thing, But then I read like Girl with Dragon Tattoo, and I loved it, And I read like Blake Crouch or something I love, which can be considered sci-fi. But I'm just saying that sometimes it's hits and sometimes it misses. I'm trying to make myself do it more because, like a few years back, I don't think I would have read Bernard Cornwell, and freaking Warlord Chronicles is like maybe one of my favorite trilogies ever. So it sometimes, I think I have enough hits enough to keep me wanting to do it and go outside of my comfort zone a little bit, but like the procedural, like cop dramas, no, that's not my thing. There's obviously a place for it. Michael Connelly sells 1 billion books. The guy must be doing something right, A lot of the military espionage books, like a lot of my patrons have been trying to get me to read Jack Carr, So I mean, there's a lot of things out there that I never say never. I mean, think about it. Before I started this channel, I was like, I will never read a manga, and now I've read tons, So I think it's one of those things I always leave the option open to give it a try. But it was hard for me to say, okay, well, I'm gonna read more of this and less of that, because you are kind of set in your way. I do have a ton of fantasy books back here I haven't read yet. I've got a ton that wonderful authors like P.L. Stewart have sent me. I haven't had a chance to get to yet. I haven't read Phillips book 2 and 3 yet. So it's just you're one person, so you have to try to say, okay, I'm going to do this in this order. But then it's tough because, like, really, I'm only doing one fantasy book a month. How am I ever going to read all this stuff? Because that's the bulk of what I have back here. So I'm not saying that's the way I'm going to be permanently, but I am trying to do that to make myself be more than just fantasy and other things on my channel.
No, I can certainly appreciate that. And the pressure of the TBR and things you want to read and FOMO is real.
FOMO is terrible, man.
It's horrible. Every time you or Joanna or Phil or someone, read this book, I'm like, I want to get to that, but I can't. I just don't have time. And Joanna, Philip really needs to read Warlord.
Bundy hasn't. I will guarantee that will be one of the favorite things he's ever read. Yes.
Yeah, he's going to fall in love with Durfell the way we all have, and he's going to go enjoy his hate of Lancelot.
And then he'll make videos like dissecting the truth about the Arthurian legend, and it'll be brilliant content. Way smarter than I could ever do. Yeah.
Yes, it will. I think Joanne needs to join him on those discussions, and sounds like Mike might be up for it as well. So, hey, you know what? And if you want the C League involved, hey, bring me on board too, because I'd be happy to chat with you about Mr. Cornwell, who's one of my favorite authors, and that trilogy is one of my. Yeah, it's pretty well I never thought a trilogy would exceed some of the other trilogies, like from my childhood, like the nostalgic ones like Lord of the Rings, etc. But it has.
You know, when I
in
read
my
Warlord
writing.
Chronicles, I was like, this is great, and I never thought that I could find someone that could write a duel in the circle better than Joe Abercrombie. But I was like, Cornwell did it, and that's amazing because that's Abercrombie does that. It's like it's appointment viewing whenever he does that scene in one of his books, and that's as high a compliment as I can give. Is man, that guy writes battles like I've never seen before. It's just yeah.
I
And
have to concur.
Wynn, you can see, is hugely influenced by Bernard Cornwell in the best
Yeah,
way.
yeah, I got to concur. Cornwell, Abercrombie, John Gwynn. If I know, I'm not sure if you read Jenny Wirtz. She
Yeah.
writes phenomenal
She's so
battle.
sweet. She sent me like 11 books though. She's like, she messaged me. She's like, hey, I heard you just finished Realm of the Eldlings, and you might have room for another slow burn series that's way too long. Yeah, she's so nice. And she sent me like some of her personal ones off her shelf because she didn't have them in hardcover. And she like drew some art on the label that she's she's so kind.
Yeah, that's Jenny. Iconic author, amazing human, just phenomenal.
And
But yeah,
I talk to people that say those books are just so incredible too. So yeah.
oh, you can't. She's my favorite author of all time. One of my other favorite authors of all time, another amazing, incredible battle scene writer, Miles Cameron, Christian Cameron. I mean, the authenticity he brings with the reenactment stuff. When you watch his fighting videos, I mean, the man travels the world reenacting some of the most famous battles from ancient history. You can't get any more authentic than Miles.
I have a book series by him. I can't remember what it's called. It's like 5-book series. Oh gosh.
Trader Sun Cycle.
Trader's Son. Yeah. I think I have that one. I've never actually dipped into them.
Yeah, that again, that's probably one of my top series of all time, and it's
we all have that
on
problem,
on that shoulder.
You haven't read anything by an author, but you'll buy like 10 to 12 books by him. I mean, that's just our way. That's how we roll, right?
It's all good. It's all good. So listen, I just I'm not sure if I have the secret password. I'm not sure if I'm going to get in trouble for asking, even if it's even a topic that we broached. However, what is the Columinati?
Oh, Illuminati. That's Brian Bell's his love child, I guess you'd say. Is he basically said that like he wanted to start like a book club, kind of a thing where we'll read something outside of our comfort zone once a quarter and get together and talk about it. And when it's something that's not part of a series, isn't just specifically fantasy or something like that, less than 500 pages, something we can just kind of fit in and get together and talk about it. And we kept coming up with all these names, and it seemed like all these names were used. Somebody were already taken already. And we were in a group chat, him, Philip, myself, and John over at Talking Story. And just, I don't know who actually came up with it. We were making fun of Philip's tweed jacket, saying some guy do something about tweed in there. And then someone came up with Illuminati. I was like, well, how could it not be that if that's not taken? And it's just, again, it's his idea that one of us would pick the book, and then someone else would actually host a discussion on their channel and just kind of revolve it around. And the first pick was John's, and it was hosted on my channel. And it was a book I really just actively did not like, which is rare for me to actually DNF a book. It really is rare.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
That tells you how I felt about it. But, that's going to happen. Again, these are books that are intentionally out of our comfort zone, and again, I always want to kind of try to keep pushing that, because that's how you find new things to love, is you try new things. It's hard. You get, be an old head after a while. It's hard to just say, I'm going to do anything different, but I'll make sure I keep giving other things a try. Cause I think about some of the authors that I've discovered since starting a BookTube channel that I never would have ever picked up before. And that's just awesome. I mean, I've got some new, like, look at my top 10 authors list I just did. I never would have imagined some of them being on there, because I gave new things a try. And so I want to make sure I keep doing that for sure.
Yeah, that's incredible. And what a group, eh? Like John Minton, Brian Bell, Philip Chase, and you. Like, wow, that's some heavy hitters, man, in the BookTube community.
Very, very humbled to be asked. It was very nice of them. Very nice.
But wow, and the first book you picked was a no-go for you, eh?
John picked the book Vanished Birds by Simon Jimenez. And
okay, I've heard of that one. I've heard of it.
It wasn't for me. It's a very divisive book from what I understand. And Philip never dislikes a book, and I think that's the most critical I've ever heard Philip, in a nice and his super positive way. But that's the most critical I think I've ever heard him be of a book. So I was like, maybe it wasn't just me.
Well, and you know what? That's another thing I love about BookTube and blogging and everything, is that you know, and again, you're one of those people too, like Philip, who, you know, you'll still accentuate some of the positives if you find nitty. And we
Sure.
all know that when a book is not for somebody else, you know, that can be perfect for another person, right? So it's all subjective. So
Yeah, so I'm
um,
going to do my format where I say, you know, what makes it good, what makes it bad, and I'll say, now this isn't necessarily something I think is bad. It's just some things I think you might want to look out for. If these are things that bother you, maybe this might not be the book for you. That's kind of the way that I put it. But a lot of times people have been like, "Oh, all those things you listed as bad are things I love," and like, that's awesome,
yeah,
man. That's what I'm trying to do. And also a book like Name of the Wind, which is like one of my most unpopular opinions that I didn't care for. I did a standard review for that, and I talked for 10 minutes about things I actually really, really liked about it. So I don't think that criticism or saying that a book didn't work for you is being negative. You know, you can do that without being a jerk about it. Like, I'll never make a video about you shouldn't read this author because they're an idiot. I have authors like that I don't like, and I talk about that. I've made a long video about why I stopped reading Brent Weeks and talk about all the reasons
mhm,
why, and just saying it's also because I think the guy's mega freaking talented,
yeah.
and he just always does his M. Night Shyamalan stuff in his books, and it drives me crazy. You know, that's a me problem. The guy sells millions of books. He's obviously doing something right. You know, but I just think you can make videos like that without being a jerk about those things, even though being a jerk apparently does bring the viewers.
No, I hear you. But kudos to you for getting the Illuminati, being part of that, and the four of you being willing to check out books that you might not necessarily have read, and you know, and sharing that with your audiences. So
And then it's hard to make sure that it's something that we all haven't read too, because there's a couple of things we first listed, like a Discworld book or something like that, that everybody had read except one other person. So it's fun. It's a long conversation, you know. So I'm glad we're only doing it, you know, 4 times a year.
So listen, I want to, if you don't mind, I know we're not getting controversial here, but I do want to perhaps get some maybe hot takes from you,
Sure.
especially about a couple of authors that I think you and I love,
Okay.
and just and also involved in their universe. Okay, so I know, like, you know, like me, you're a big GRM fan.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know, huge, and you know what can we say about I'm absolutely loving Hot D. I know there are people out there who don't feel the same way. However, you know, of all the adaptations, the big ones that have happened in the last you know, few decades. I mean, say what you will about that last season, especially, and maybe the season before, and then the season 6. But you know, Game of Thrones is still one of the best ever television shows produced, I think, you
Yeah,
know,
it's
on the
almost like
planet.
while they had source material, it was the best thing you'd ever seen in your life because the source material is that great. Yeah, but I know I see a lot of people complain, like book fans, complaining about some things on House of Dragon. I'm like, did you fall down and hit your head? I was like, have you seen some of the adaptations? Have you seen Wheel of Time? Have you watched Rings of Power? We are blessed by the good Lord to have an adaptation that's this faithful to the source material. And the thing about Fire and Blood, which is what House of Dragon is based off of, is that's a book being recounted by historians. It's not a straight
Yeah.
narrative. So you can't say, oh, they changed things. These are people 100 years after the fact admitting that they have biases and there's multiple points of view. How do you know that that's not exactly how it happened? So to me, watching House of Dragon is so much more fun than Game of Thrones
Yes, it is.
because I feel like I'm getting those answers directly from George because he's consulting of this is what actually happened. And it keeps me guessing because, okay, I know this character dies at this battle or something. I don't know how it all went down. And I love that about this show because it's given me all these answers that I've been questioning about since the first time I read Fire and Blood twice. The first time I read it, being like, oh, would have never thought that happened. But, you know, Mushroom says this and this other guy says that.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're getting the
Yeah.
actual answers on the show. It's like, that last episode was amazing. And I
Oh,
actually seen people complaining about it. I'm like, what is wrong?
well, you're gonna complain about with and not spoiling for anybody the battle that occurred in that basically almost everyone that I know, almost every reader and every lover of fantasy and all things fantasy and sci-fi loves dragons. I meet very few people who are like, nah, dragons,
We
but
haven't ever seen anything like that in the big or the small screen that looked that amazing. I think
no.
there's that scene where Vagar just gets up off the ground. It's just like growing across. I was like, oh my god, this is like just fantasy orgasm right here. This is
Yeah,
amazing. Yeah,
yeah.
amazing.
When the entire battle pauses because he gets up and starts and lifts off, and literally, and it's like the version of a 747 in a medieval context,
I have
lifting up.
my
It
theory.
was
I have my theory. I feel like a lot of people they got such a high off Game of Thrones, mostly non-readers. They got such a high off of Game of Thrones, and they're just going to be chasing that high for the rest of their life. And I feel like they've got the point. Like what we said, say we get Winds of Winter one day, God willing, and it's like, is anything that George does going to shock you? No, because we expect it at this point. And I think when they were watching Game of Thrones, because they had never read Song of Ice and Fire, they didn't know what to expect. So now you expect characters to die, you expect crazy shit to happen, and he can't really surprise you anymore. You can never get that again. You can never fall in love the same way a second time. So I think that that's holding some people back. But I'm like, guys, you just gotta ease off, get off social media, take a breath, and just enjoy it, because we're not seeing very much adaptation like this. And HBO, they just get it, man. No one else seems to understand what makes fantasy tick, but they get it. And just enjoy this. Right? That's what I tell people during season 1 when they're like, I don't really like that in the turkey. Who cares? Just watch it. And I got that when Game of Thrones came out, the first season, because I love the books. I'm trying to tell everybody to watch them. I don't really like fantasy. It's like, STFU. Just trust me. And then 2 years later, like, I'm the biggest Game of Thrones fan in the world. Ask me anything. Like, oh, okay. Yeah. So anyway.
No, and you know what? I feel like, and the thing about these adaptations is that, and obviously I'm a big book reader, book first kind of guy, but for me, when you have adaptations that you love the books and then you know what's going to happen, but you cannot rip your eyes away from 1 minute of what's going on the screen, that adaptation has succeeded.
That was me during Dune Part 2. Obviously my favorite book ever, and seeing just multiple sandworms all attack at the same time was just tear-inducing, because that's something I had imagined ever since I was 15 years old. And you finally see it, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, and another fantastic adaptation. They've really hit the ball of the park with, especially the last, Dune Part 2 was absolutely phenomenal. So quickly back to Hot D. We all know the showrunners who, for all of us, shall not be named, that we feel that had a rather shall we say negative effect on the last part of Game of Thrones, the TV adaptation. And so I know it's still early on. We're only into season 2. But so my question for you, sir, is as like me, a big fan and someone who's read the books and is usually into this universe, has so far House of the Dragon, I know we're early in, it's only 2 seasons, has it redeemed the entire Game of Thrones TV universe, based on the fact it's been so good? Like, are we going to start to maybe one day forget about seasons essentially so. six and a half to I'll give some you know what, I'll just say let's be 7 and 8. Let's just say season 7 and 8 of Game of Thrones on TV.
I think the more and more stuff came out, you realize that the showrunners really kind of burned their bridge with George, and he was like, fine, fuck you, go do your own thing then. And you could tell that that wasn't a good relationship at the end. Ryan Condal, Miguel Sapochnik, and George R. Martin are very close. And so I was like, okay, they can't be this tone deaf. They know what happened, and they know that this is their only chance to kind of revive that IP. And I'll admit, I was wrong. I said this is the wrong time period. I thought they should have just done Aegon's Conquest. Now I'm like, dude, Dance of Dragons is the perfect thing to put on TV. So I think that the healing begun last year, but I feel like they're back now. Because I feel like there was a lot of people during season, no, I'm never giving them a chance again. And I was like, those people that you're mad at weren't there. And this has all the source material. I made a video about why House of Dragon will be great, and it got laughed at. And again, I hit on some and I missed on some, because I did say I thought this was the wrong time period to be adapting. But I think the healing has happened. People were ready to forgive, after some time had went by. I think they took long enough to do it. And I just definitely feel like this year, it feels like the energy is there to where nobody's worried about it's shitting the bed like they were with Game of Thrones. When season 1 started of this, a lot of people were like, nah, I'm not going to watch it just for them to disappoint me again at the end. I feel like the season 2, that energy has been just fully electric. Like, you can just visit social media after the episode ends. It feels like an event again. Right. And it's just, it's great. It's great. And in the end, I'm just glad the memes are back, because, Game of memes has always been great.
Yeah, I think they've bought themselves a real currency. And if they can pull this whole season off and then do Dunk and Egg properly, and maybe go back and do Aegon's Conquest. They might be able to juice this for even Blackfire Rebellions. Like they might be able to get almost the entirety of the prehistory, even up maybe people said, what would be the point of doing Robert's Rebellion when we know what happens? But if we know what happens,
yeah,
exactly. So we could potentially have
what I like when I talk about saying is like you feel like you're getting some of these things answered by George himself is like this is all successful, man. I want Doom of Valyria. I want the Long
Me
Night.
too.
I want the stuff these are getting answers from George because as much as I hate to say it, I don't want to sound negative about it, but if he's not going to write, at least he can give us this stuff. Give us these answers that people that have been obsessing over the history books for 20 years have always wanted to know. And I feel like that's what I love about House of Dragons. We're getting those answers. And man, I'd love to see Doom of Valyria. I think it'd be amazing.
Oh yeah, that would be incredible. Just to find the backstory with the fighting dragon lords and seeing them battle across the sea, at least stuff like. There's just so much stuff that could be packed into that. And yeah, I totally agree with you. If he's not giving us those next couple books, at least he could consult in all of these HBO specials based on his work. That would be.
I feel like Aegon's Conquest is a matter of when, not if. That's going to happen. Look, I'm selfish. I just want to see Harrenhal get melted by a dragon. Okay, that's my one wish. I want to see this.
I actually hope that if they do it, that they go back to, not in entirety, this, maybe even just a prologue section, Daenerys the Dreamer, the Targaryens coming over to Dragonstone, and then maybe that time jump, and then it's like, okay, now you got Aegon and the sister wives ready to wreck shop, and I can't wait, hopefully, to see that one day.
All of it. So I don't want it to get to the point where it's like, Disney Plus, where it's like too much. I feel like as long as they keep it respectful, people who love the source material, and it seems like they are, because you've seen these things with George where he's like, I see a lot of it, like he'll be on HBO and he'll be like in the featurettes being like, a lot of people say, oh, well, we're going to adapt this. We're going to kind of do our own thing. He's like, I'm against that. If you're going to adapt it, you need to adapt it like the original storyteller told. So as long as he's involved, I feel like they're going to do it faithfully. And they also, again, they can't be so damn tone deaf to know, hey, we really messed up with the last season of Game of Thrones, and we almost poisoned the IP forever. So I think they've gotten a second chance, and they're not going to squander it again.
No, I agree. Turn in wheels quickly a bit. Do you have faith in any adaptations that will be coming forward for Joe Abercrombie's work?
I mean, it's one of those you hope for the best, you expect the worst. I mean, I remember the long wait for Game of Thrones and feeling positive about it, but wondering if it would attract a mainstream audience enough to justify the price tag. That was my thing. It's like, that's an expensive show. And you go back and watch the season 1 of Game of Thrones now, you're like, whoa, this is so low budget. I can't believe they stretched that budget far compared to what it is now. But I think it's just, I always kind of expect these to fail. So, I mean, I'm the guy that was in the theater for Fellowship of the Ring, and it wasn't until Gandalf was fighting the Balrog of Morgoth before I was like, oh my God, they did it, because I was still waiting for that movie to fall apart, just because this genre is just so hard for people to really do right. So with me, it's like, I didn't expect Wheel of Time to succeed. I didn't expect Rings of Power to succeed. I didn't expect Witcher to succeed. I think that first season was actually decent. I mean, it had issues, but it was decent. Far cry from what it is now. But I think with this is, I don't know. I don't trust Hollywood screenwriters because they do what they've been doing to Stephen King and Michael Crichton for years. Is they'll get to a certain part and then they'll say, I can do this better. And it's like, you're not a better writer than those authors. So all you're doing is taking a shit on it. And I don't trust that they will adapt Best Served Cold like the book is, which I love. It's one of my favorite in the First Law universe. And I just don't think that they'll change too much. That's, again, I hope I'm wrong. I think that Joe is actually a part of the writing team for that. So hopefully, I'm going to be talking to Blake Crouch soon, and he was the lead writer. Yeah, he was the lead writer for his adaptation of Dark Matter. He was basically he wrote everything in there. And so I talked to him about that. Like, it seems like a lot of these people are starting to realize now, hey, we have the source material writer right here. Let's use them. I think it started Stephen King wrote Lacey's story for Apple TV. I think you're starting to see that more. So hopefully, Joe, they listen to him. I'm hoping that's what it is. And I know for a fact when I talk to Joe is you can tell he can't really say it, but he regrets selling the rights to the first Law trilogy because they're never going to adapt it, and he has to wait for the clock to run out before he can try to shop it again. So I'm hoping with Best Served Cold, he wasn't like, oh, I'll just take the first check I get. And he said, okay, well, I got to attach these stipulations to it where I've got to have, final say or creative control. Oda Sensei for One Piece on Netflix, he's got final say on everything. He's got final cut. So hopefully a lot of authors are tired of watching their work get bastardized on television. They'll be more involved now.
Yeah, please, producers, directors, showrunners, while the author especially is alive, please, please, please grab them and have them pay them the money that they deserve to have them consult and make sure that your adaptation goes well. Because I think that
this is very important. You have to cast Nakoma Casca right, or it does not work. I know you got Rebecca Ferguson. Think she could probably be a pretty good monster, but you got to get Nakoma Casca right, man. Or I just don't know if they can do it.
Yeah, and for me, I don't know how you feel, Mike. So much of it is about, again, it's who they cast as those characters.
Yeah.
Like for me, obviously, I'm looking for when they get to First Law, who do they make? Who's Glokta, right? Who's Logan? Like who's Giselle? Who's who are the people you picked to? And it can be a no name actor that just knocks out of the park. And sometimes those are the best finds that just totally sinks himself in the role and just right. Or it can be a big top tier actor. But as long as they make those.
Yeah. With me, it's like, look, I want this to be successful. So they'll say, oh, look, there's life in this series. And then they take the First Law original trilogy to series on like HBO or some shit, because I think it'd be amazing on there. But hopefully it is successful. And we do see not just more people, discovering the series, which obviously I've been pushing forever. But we do see some of these things, because I think I talk about this. Well, quit making The Hunt for Gollum. Quit making Shogun fan fiction part 2. Quit doing that stuff. There's all this amazing stuff behind me. Let's adapt some of these other great series out there.
Now you said, and it's an interesting point you hit on. I thought it was excellent. You said that you're sitting watching Peter Jackson's version of Lord of the Rings. You're watching Fellowship of the Ring, and you get to the Mudmore, and Gandalf the Balrog shows up, and you guys, okay, they did it, right? And and correct me if I'm wrong, you're pointing towards the fact that it's when you finally see that huge action, that big epic action battle thing, whatever it is in whatever year is, where they say, okay, they got this right. They captured the tone. They got the music. Music is huge. I mean, you look at GOT. I mean, Raman Djawadi, he is the god.
He's right there with Bear McCreary now is like my favorite TV composer, man. He's so good.
Yeah, he's just so good. But with a lot of these adaptations, so much of the issue is that they can't shoot their wad in the first, typically, especially if it's a TV serial, and on Game of Thrones, they couldn't do those big battles until later on because they didn't have the budget, right? They had to really penny pitch when it came to what they devoted their cash to in terms of battle action scenes specifically. So when you say
season 1, the Battle of the Pike, where it just has Tyrion get knocked out and they didn't even show it.
We kind of run it. Yeah, we couldn't pay the light bill, guys, so we kind of just skip over that battle and just go to the end when Tyrion wakes up and we won. So my point is that you raise an excellent point, and do you feel that you can tell? Is that when we can tell when you see in an adaptation, especially an adaptation that has in the books a lot of great action, and then they get to that real moment, and when stuff's supposed to go down on TV, and it just is that when that it's gonna work? It's not gonna work. Or conversely, like you said with Peter Jackson, okay, it's gonna go. Is that one of the things that one of your key indicators?
I wouldn't necessarily that it was the action or the visual, whatever. It was just, that's just such a pivotal part of that book. And spoiler, guys, where you think Gandalf is dead, and again, people who didn't read it were getting hit in the feels. That's when I was like, they did it. They nailed it. They've got all these cast members right. They've got the story. To me, it was just like, I can't believe how faithful they're being to the source material, because I didn't expect that. The whole thing with that was I was super excited about Lord of the Rings, obviously it being my favorite trilogy ever. And I was watching the build up to it. And then the year before that, the Dungeons and Dragons movie came out, and it was dog shit, and it completely killed my motivation. It's like they just can't do it. They just cannot do this genre right. Lord of the Rings is gonna be terrible. So I was saying it wasn't. I wasn't. I was, of course, I was there at a midnight showing for Fellowship of the Ring, and I still was like, it's not gonna be good. There's no way. I mean, even then it started pretty good. I was like, it's on the right path, but I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. So it was just that point of the movie where I was like, oh my god, this is so great, and the music right there, Harold Shore, where get them up. That scene was just like, oh my god, this is great. I'm in tears because not just because of what's going on the screen, but just because they got this story I love. They've nailed it. I'm not even worried about it. And then I just enjoyed the second half of the movie, So.
Yeah, and the acting, the cinematography, the looks, back and forth. Oh my God, is he gone over? Frodo's scream for Gandalf. Like everything was just perfect, right? And so much. But obviously, we do know, and you comment all the time, is that it's hard to get it. And it's not just about being faithful to the source material. It's hard to get an adaptation right. It's not easy. There's a lot of money invested. It takes a lot. Great writing, great acting, a great production. Like it takes a lot to get these things right. So, are we really surprised that so many of them flop? Because not just because the author's not involved, they're not backing it, perhaps the author's passed away, or because the showrunners think, okay, you know what, I have a better version than the writer's material itself. Like it's hard. Like everything has to go just right to make these adaptations, flourish, right?
Yeah, Lord of the Rings was just perfect time. It couldn't have been in better hands. It was people that just absolutely loved and adored the source material. You watch those. I mean, I've watched those hours and hours of documentaries of the making of those films. It's like just how much care was put into every damn link of chainmail that they're putting together by hand and stuff. Just, I don't think we'll see anything like that. I mean, even when Peter Jackson did The Hobbit, it was like there was so much CGI and stuff. It was like this. The technology of movie making has just moved in a different direction. So I think it was just like the perfect time where special effects had moved forward enough to actually do this. And that's why you go back and watch them now and you're like, wow, the Balrogs looks amazing, right? But it's also one of those things where, like, for me, miniatures are just, it's irreplaceable. You can't really get the practical effects to look, I mean, CGI to look as good as the practical effects did. It's just like a sign of the times, I think. So it was just perfect timing, really. It was. And that's why those movies just feel ageless. And that's why I still watch them, twice a year over the summer and over Christmas. It's like a family tradition now.
I was gonna say that those age really well, and now I do a lot of the watching. What little time I have, sometimes I'll just nerd out and I'll start watching all the behind the scenes stuff for Hot D, and you see the amount of detail and care and money they're spending to make the everything immaculate in terms of the detail, the authenticity. I was watching one the other day about Aegon the Conqueror's armor that Aegon was wearing. Just like wow. So there is hope. I think there's a lot of hope for the future. If people can continue to work on these things, I think there is hope.
Just let HBO do everything. Yes. they figured it out where Amazon's like, what are we doing wrong? It's almost like throwing a bunch of money at it doesn't work. Yeah.
So I want us to get back to you and what you do in this space. So, and again, I know you're humble right now, like I said, you're in my corner of YouTube. You're one of the big guns, man. Who are some of the booktubers that in your journey or now that you look up to, that you really admire the stuff that they're doing, that you look to for mentorship, or you just really just enjoy just watching their stuff? Who are some of those booktubers for you?
For me, it's always Philip's always the one I go to, because I say that it's like when you're a sports fan, so you'll get this analogy. It's like when someone that was a Hall of Famer decides to come on the game and like co-broadcast, and you're like, this is amazing. I feel like I'm learning stuff. That's how I feel when I watch Philip's material. I feel like I'm learning things I never would have thought. That's why I love having conversations with him about anything. Because I mean, we're talking about Dark Tower last night, so he just goes on and on about poetry and stuff. I'm like, what the fuck? I mean, Philip's he's so smart. And again, his content's so different than mine. And I love that about him, because I always say I feel like I'm learning when I watch Philip. And again, it's just hard to maintain all that positivity. It really is. It can be easy to kind of fall down that path where you're just being really shitty to everybody. And he doesn't do that. And I love that. I feel like it's hard to be positive all the time about everything. And I admire and respect that about him. That's why I watch everything that he puts out. As long as I've read, when he does like something, he's doing like some spoiler talks now about One Piece, and I'm not that far yet, so I haven't watched those yet. But yeah, I always make sure that I have notifications set from whenever Philip puts out a new video.
Yeah, and he is just, on top of being, insanely smart and educated, he is such a wonderful human, so
Yeah,
warm and
genuinely nice guy. I remember it was like the first year I really know him, and he would just like message me at Christmas just to make sure that just making sure you and the family are having a great holiday, man. So I'm like who does this? A guy I've never met before is doing this. And so I was like, I'm gonna be ride or die for Philip. He's an awesome dad. He's a genuinely great human.
yeah, he is, and a phenomenal booktuber what he does in this space. So we talked about the touch this about this earlier, and I know you were mentioning, and I think a lot of us all have that thing as well, where we're okay. What's the next best thing? Is this booktube bubble gonna burst? Is YouTube gonna burst? We see the advent of things like TikTok, etc. Where do you think, you're a business guy? The trends are something that the forecasting, that's something that you do. Where do you think booktube and YouTube are going? Is it going to contract? Is it going to stay consistent for a while? You think something's going to burst in the near future? Like, where do you think all this people basically, where do I find out about where to get my next book? Click on, Mike or Philip or Joanna, or is that something you think is going to continue for a while? Is this ride going to go on for a bit, or?
I think you'll always have those loyal viewers, but I've already fear of the YouTube overlords hearing what I'm saying here. I feel like they make it really hard for creators sometimes because I talk about when you are trying to figure out the algorithm, and every time you feel like you figure it out, they change something. And what people don't realize is when they change something, it's retroactive to everything that you've already done. So it affects everything. So anyone that's trying to make like a career off this, I feel for them because it's ever changing. It's way too volatile. And yeah, I mean, you kind of look at the way of the dinosaur here is look at YouTube gaming used to be humongous, humongous. And then they started saying, well, we're going to take like 60% of your super chats. And so everybody left and went to Twitch. I feel like they're going to do that with a lot of kind of the little subgenres here on YouTube, is they just keep chasing off creators. And eventually, I think someone's going to come along. I don't know. Could it be Rumble? Could it be BitChute? Something like I doubt it. I doubt it. I don't think it's actually something there yet. But you're going to see someone like an Elon Musk or somebody create some new platform for this stuff and give creators 95% of everything that they do or something, and you're going to see that real competition happen. And I feel like it's going to create a war, and I don't know who win. We're going to have a Monday Night Wars kind of thing like we had in the 90s with wrestling. It's going to happen eventually. I mean, the only thing that's going to make anything change is competition, and there's way too many innovative entrepreneurs out there who are willing to do the things that others want them to do, what creators want them to do. And I think that's when it'll kind of happen. Now, the short form content, that's just your audience, man. I mean, some people prefer minute videos. My wife watches ton. She'll say she doesn't watch TikTok, but she watches Facebook Reels, which is just TikTok. They just upload them to Facebook also. She'll watch those for hours. So people will be like, oh, I just can't pay attention for 20 minutes. It's like, but you will do that for 21-minute videos in a row. So I think there's really nothing you can do about that as a content creator. You can try to make that content. I try to make shorts. I can't say very much in a minute. It's really hard for me to narrow anything down to a minute. But I think that there's signs there that this. I mean, what's up the people that depend on TikTok for their financial well-being, and because of things that are going on legislation, it might go poof. You never know. So this is way too volatile of a thing for me to ever really count on it monetarily. And that's why I try to keep it fun. But no, I don't think this ride will last forever. I don't think that we're 6 months to a year away from extinction or something. But I do think that when some serious competition gets out there, you might see some things really over time.
Oh, I hear you. I tend to agree. But how do you feel the space has evolved when you first started, came out, and like, how do you think the space has evolved, especially when it comes to specifically, the indie? Because you came on, like, your start was in, I think the indie was really starting to emerge, independent, indie fantasy, indie sci-fi, horror. I think the romance and the thriller stuff was already kind of going, but and then they sell like crazy, and some of those authors are so prolific. They write dozens of books a year, right? But I think the indie fantasy sci-fi especially really started to take off, at least from as an outsider, really started to take off during the pandemic, and where people started really finding about this stuff from BookTube. So that's just for me one example of the way I see the dynamic has changed in this space. How's it changed for you? Like, how have you seen this evolution, things evolve in your corner of BookTube since you started?
The very first trailer I made for the channel, which isn't around anymore, is I was saying that something that I wanted to do is you can look at this chart in the States and see how much less people have read year after year, and it's been going down for a long time. But what I'll say, one of the things I think that has actually brought it back and made books way more popular again is the advent of audiobooks. Now, I can't audio, but I can't deny how many people, especially in my audience, that do almost 100% of their reading via Audible, from audiobooks. So I think that actually kind of really boosted the popularity for a lot of people, especially how much Amazon pushes it and who doesn't use Amazon, honestly. So I think that really helped a lot. And that's why you can see that I think back in 2019 is I could count on two hands how many booktubers I felt like I interacted or watched or even knew about. And now there's that many a week that are starting off their channel, which is awesome. It's awesome. I want to keep that community growing, I think. But I just think it's something that more and more people are kind of getting into it and saying that, hey, I think a lot of TV and movies suck right now because I'm with Quentin Tarantino. I think this is like the worst era of Hollywood in my lifetime. And I think a lot of people are just kind of following books because I think back like, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, I was watching way more movies and TV than I do now. And that was right around the time where I said, I'm going to start reading instead of 10 books a year, I'm going to go up to 20 books a year. And then now I'm up to like 75, 80 books a year. And I think it's just because a lot more people are saying, I don't like what entertainment has become. I'm going to go read a book. Or now, hey, Audible has all these options for me to listen to. A lot of people listen to it in their car. They can listen to it at work, things like that. It's just become like an escape for a lot of people. And I think that's really, really expanded the audiences here on YouTube as well, because once they do that, they're like, oh, well, I want to talk to somebody about this. They might have been like me, where I don't know anybody that reads these kind of books. They can always go on YouTube and find someone that's talked about that one book that you're wanting to hear about.
Yeah, yeah, and I totally agree. And I think, and you talked about where this whole thing might be going, and I asked you specifically about where it's come from and what you've seen evolve. I think that, and this is sad because, I have a lot of, especially, my kids, some of my younger kids, some of their contemporaries, they don't read at all. They don't read at all, and unless it's academic specific for school, they wouldn't touch a book, electron or otherwise, regardless. And they're very smart kids, right? But it's just not something that is part. It's not something we're raised on. It's not something that's part of them. And but I do hope that through YouTube, love of reading and love of books can continue to live. If it might become this niche thing where only the people that read kind of check out BookTube, and voices like yours are basically you're at the avant-garde at the front of keeping a love of reading alive. So I hope it doesn't get that dire, but yeah, I because I totally agree. I see a shrinking the populace, especially in North America, that they are reading the way our generation was, certainly. And so I hope that is, I hope it's a blip in the.
There's a lot of things I think with our generation as we see current generations and being like, for example, my kids have went outside this summer only when I make them. I think about you and I, we probably were out on our bikes, nonstop over the summer, right? That was it because we didn't have the options. I think about if I'd had something like a Netflix when I was a kid, oh yeah, I'd been 400 pounds and probably dead by now. But it's hard. You got to just realize that generations are going to be kind of different. And yeah, I mean, our parents thought TV was going to ruin us, and we're now social media and iPads are going to ruin them, so there's always gonna be like that next thing. But really all you can do is just try to pass it along. My kids, they aren't really interested in doing it themselves, but what they do find fascinating is being a YouTuber, and then you really talk about books. They find that somewhat interesting. So hopefully it's one of those things that when they get a little older, maybe they'll be interested. All we can do is just keep trying to pass it down to them. Right now, my kids, my oldest, he's going to be an audiobooker because he loves it when I read to him. He's 12 and he still wants me to read to him. So that's fine. That's cool. And again, that's why I'll never trash audio. I know a lot of people go on this platform and say we're listening to audiobooks isn't reading. Okay, maybe. But what I say is consume the media the way that it works for your life. And if that's going to get more people interested in a book or a series, I don't care how you're consuming it, as long as you're consuming it. That's great. And hopefully, some of these younger audiences, they'll start picking up somebody. It was like, for example, when Lord of the Rings came out, I saw people picking up Lord of the Rings books and reading them that would have never done that before those movies came out. Same with Song of Ice and Fire, So hopefully we have more things where you have successful adaptations of something, and it gets people interested in going and reading them, because that can start that method. Like I get so many people that drop on channels. Like I wasn't reading anything until I found your channel, and now I read so much more. So that's what I'm trying to do here.
And also that must be such a gratifying
It is.
feeling.
Yeah, it feels so good. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why we do it. And again, like when I started going out, obviously still a very small channel. It was, Taylor specifically, inspired by her, Steve Top's books, and the Phillips, and people, especially you were big, instrumental. And, like you said yourself, I'll never be that. However, if I can do this part that these folks do really well, I'll feel like I did okay, so you were definitely one of my inspirations there. So thank you for that. And it's nice to see you continuing to, thrive and grow. And, we're all looking forward to seeing what you're going to do next.
I appreciate that. And yeah, someone will message me and say, I feel like if I made your 1 hour drive to work better, that's awesome, man. I'm so glad that I can make that better, because who likes sitting in traffic, right?
I hear you, brother. Well, listen, I want to respect your time. You've been so generous with it. This has been such an amazing conversation. We could just chat for hours. You're one of those guys. I'm sure. If we were in a bar, we'd be talking about sports or football, whatever, right? So but yeah, you're a class act. You're one of you're certainly a gem on BookTube, and a great guy. And I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to come on and chat to us. So sorry Taylor couldn't make it. Hopefully you'll do us the honor of coming back
Sure.
And someday in the future, so that all three of us can hang out and chat. But as we're winding down here and signing off, there's very few people that don't know about your channel or don't know about where to reach you. But even just including your social media, if people want to check you out on where you lurk in the social media space, and of course including your YouTube channels, if you want to give the people a little bit of information as we sign off.
Sure. Well, I'm Mike, and I'm a Leo, and actually, I have a YouTube site. Obviously, Mike's Book Reviews. Usually talk about fantasy, sci-fi, horror. That's kind of my bread and butter there. I have a second channel, Mike's Media Reviews, where my wife and I talk about basically whatever we're watching, whatever we're playing, listening to, all those kinds of things. I am on the socials. I have Instagram. I have Twitter. I'm going to show my age a little bit here. My handle is Zepp, like Led Zeppelin, ZEPP 1978, which is the year that I was born. I have a Facebook page, just Mike's Book Reviews. I don't update it nearly as much as I probably should. But and also have a channel Discord, which you can find the link to in all of my videos in the description. And it's we're at like 9,000 users now, and it's probably the most positive community on the internet. I hope you guys will join us, because there are people on there that are like this. They've built those friendships. And for me, it's like in the end, even if 9,000 of those people don't watch any of the videos, I'm glad that I can provide them with a community to go to that's really positive, and they can talk about whatever they want to and have a good time. And I hope you guys will check it out.
Well, I'm sure a lot of us already have, and more will continue to do so in the future. And yeah, we're so grateful for you, Mike, and the space you've created. And I will continue to, watch as much as I can, of what you're putting out there, and watching and learning. So everyone, listen, everyone who stopped by in the chat, thank you. You are what helped to make this kind of long form content, relevant matter special. So, thank you so much for joining and commenting and saying hi and asking questions, etc. And to everyone who's going to watch this on replay, thank you so much. I'm honored. I know, we had a pretty big time guest here today, so probably the numbers are going to be pretty high. But it's also a testament to the kind of person that Mike is, just a wonderful human. So it has been wonderful. So everyone, we'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Enjoy your evening, night, day, wherever you are, and we will talk.